Thank you. I'd like to start by asking two questions. What are video games for? And what are the effects on the people who play them? In answer to the first question, well, actually, there are a number of possible answers. From a commercial perspective, you could say that video games are a product. They're there to make money for the companies that produce them. And they do this very successfully. But of course, there's more to it than that. We live in an age when people work fewer hours than at any time in the past, and therefore have much more leisure time. Children and young people in particular have a lot of free time. Playing video games fills some of that time for many of these people. Whereas in the past, they may have spent that time working or studying, reading or playing sport. I'll come back to this point later, but I think what it tells us is that video games exist mainly to fill up people's time. Apart from that, they don't make a useful contribution to people's lives. Indeed, as I'm about to argue, most of the effects they have on people, especially younger people, are negative. And at the extreme end of negative, video games can lead to crime. So this brings us to the second question. What are the effects? I have to say, first of all, that there's no absolutely clear answer to this question. The evidence is not as strong as, say, the evidence for the negative effects of smoking on health. But there appears to be evidence, quite convincing evidence, to suggest that many of the effects of playing video games are negative, and that potentially they can lead to antisocial attitudes and behaviour, even criminal activity. Let's look at some of these points now. My first point is that playing video games is not a productive activity. I said that video games exist essentially to fill up leisure time, and they certainly take up a great deal of time for the people who play them. But while they're playing, they're not producing anything useful, they're not achieving anything, they're not being sociable, building friendships and networks, and they're not out there learning new skills and doing new things. So game playing is clearly unproductive. From that point of view, it's a complete waste of time. Moving on to my second point, you could argue that game playing improves players' cognitive skills, their ability to think and react. But research has shown that any improvement in cognitive skills is very limited, as Sims and Mayer found in 2002. In other words, if you play a game where you have to manipulate an object, you might be able to manipulate a similar object more effectively in real life, but you probably won't be able to transfer this skill to other kinds of objects and contexts. My third point is important, and it goes like this. It's widely believed that playing violent video games can lead to violence in real life. Admittedly, this can be a difficult point to prove, but there is research to suggest that after playing violent and aggressive video games, people may behave in an aggressive way. And if more people are behaving aggressively, this has a negative effect on society generally. Aggression becomes more common in society as a whole. Bensley and Van Einwick found evidence of this in their 2001 analysis of 28 research studies. It applied particularly to younger children aged from 4 to 8 years old. Another piece of research links video games halls in Southeast Asia with recruitment for criminal gangs. These video games halls are one place where established gang members can find new members. This research is by John Vagg, published in the British Journal of Criminology. Another related point is the research that has been done into antisocial effects on children. The work of Gentile and others found increased levels of video game playing were linked to antisocial effects in children, even children who weren't previously behaving in an aggressive way. This suggests that playing video games is linked to antisocial behaviour, which may include violent behaviour. So it would seem that there is some evidence to suggest that antisocial behaviour can lead to violent behaviour and then to criminal activity. One last point. Playing video games can, like other activities, be addictive. The more you play, the more you want to play. I've seen children play games literally for hours, and the next day they want to go back and spend even more time doing the same thing. And if you try to stop them, they get moody or angry. I'm sure that many of you have seen similar examples of this kind of effect. And addiction is of course linked to criminality. Addicts often behave aggressively when they don't get their fix. And in extreme cases, some commit crimes to fuel their addictions. So, video gaming and criminality, in my view, they're closely linked.